Welcome to Visualize, the podcast where collaboration fuels change. I'm your host, Chris Baker, and each week we'll explore incredible connections between nonprofits, businesses, and the community. This is a space where we highlight inspiring partnerships, uncover strategies for creating meaningful impact, and share stories that show how working together can make all the difference. Whether you're a nonprofit leader, a business owner, or someone just passionate about building connections, this podcast is for you.
Yeah.
And then, like you're saying as well, like golf, like that's not necessarily something that everybody gets to experience or enjoy.
I've just got into golf. I'm in my mid-30s now, and I'm just getting into golf, and I'm like, man, I should have been playing this years ago. Like, what did I ever pick up a basketball for? This is where it's at. But again, even in my own experience, right? Nobody necessarily gave me the golf club like that. You know what I mean? You know, I relate to our kids because I grew up in similar environments, right? You know, I wasn't well off, but I wasn't, underprivileged either. I was, very middle class family. So I had a lot, that was afforded to me, but there was still a lot to work for, right? And so I was able to kind of be a chameleon in my own space to understand that I understand where I am, but I understand there's more out there. I just can't see it. And so I understand that that's where a lot of our members are in their lives, especially our teens, right? Those 12-year-olds and up, they're at that point in their lives where they are hyper aware, especially in today's times with social media and everything.
Yeah.
They're so aware of everything around them that they can't stay within this box anymore. You know, even in our times growing up before social media, you were aware, but again, that box kept you from seeing things. With social media now, you're in that box, but you can still see everything out there. And you can say, well, how come I don't have that in my community? How come that's not afforded to me? You know what I mean? And so when you can try to provide a space and you can try to provide a structure, right, within your organization that can introduce these things that are to a certain extent taboo, you know what I mean, to your demographics, you know what I mean, and get them introduced to it and get them used to seeing it more and more. That's where you're really creating impact, in my opinion, right? And impact is a thankless thing, right? It's not something that you can specifically measure right there in a moment or that you can even measure over time. You know, you never really know when it's going to happen. Just for example, I'll share with you, talking about coming from the programmatic side and being where I'm at now. So one of the programs we run is a Youth of the Year program. And so each club gets to nominate a kid to represent their club. They go on to do like a competition locally and it can advance to the state and regional level and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. So in my previous years as a director, my Youth of the Year, who I had at one of our clubs, she was really excited about doing it, but we were kind of having a tough time keeping her motivated, right? And she was ready to quit on me. Let's put it like that. And I just wouldn't let her quit. I'm like, don't do it. Just come on. We're right here. I used to say, Youth of the Year. Why, oh, why? Why can't it be you, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so
fair question.
She was just, and not to go into too much detail, but, her family situation was just, tough at the moment, right? So it wasn't just the competition. It was just her living situation, where she was in school and such like that. So she kind of finished top 5 in our local, judging, right? And once that happened, I saw all the energy come back to her, right? And so I said, all right, let's try to win it all now. Because, I'm competitive. I'm a sports background guy. So I'm like, all right, you top 5. Let's get number 1 now. She didn't win completely, but she didn't lose any confidence out of it. I could still see that she was invigorated by the process and not quitting. So to fast forward a bit, she's graduated high school and she's making a decision, where she wants to go to school. And she says, I'd love to go to FSU. But again, her family situation just wasn't permitting at the time, financially, living arrangements and stuff. So she said, oh man, I don't know. Maybe I'll just give up on school. No, we're back at no, don't give up. Here's some avenues you can take. try the community college route, you know what I mean, and see if there's opportunity to transfer. I'm giving her all that I can to try to help her get to the goal I know she wants, that just seems so far right now. And you know, she decides she is going to go to a community college in Tallahassee. And so it's been some time. This is a couple years ago, mind you. And so now I'm away from the club. I've already upgraded and been promoted. Now I'm in an administrative role, and I'm in an administrative role for a while now. So I haven't really had any direct communication with her in a while. And just one day, randomly, I get a text. Hey, Coach Cam, as I've been known in the club. Hey, Coach Cam, how you doing? This is such and such from the club. Hey, what's going on? And I'm just like, it's great to hear from you. It's awesome. Hey, I just wanted to let you know I got an FSU this year. I said, whoa, wait a minute. When did this happen? And she was like, well, I just finished up. I just got my AA at the community college. And so I took your advice. I got those credits. I applied to FSU. And now I'm going to be going there in the fall. And I was like, the goal has been reached. You know what I mean? And so I provide this story. I say all that just to say, did I know it was going to happen like that? Did I know I was going to get that text that day? No. You know what I mean? And like I say, it's a thankless job, but you have to do those things in those moments, right? You have to push. You have to stay dedicated. You have to stay poised. You have to kind of keep, encouraging, even if you don't get that text, because that's not the idea. The idea is not to expect that text. It's not to be like, well, in 2 years she'll text me, she'll thank me. It's not that at all. Because at that point, I'd forgot about it. It was kind of out of sight, out of mind. I assumed she was doing well, but I couldn't. If she wouldn't have texted me, who knows?
It's very interesting that you talk about that way, because the indirect impact that some people can have in other people's lives is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like if you are giving a speech at a school and one person hears it and it changed just their mindset a little, like not enough to go make a direct impact the next day, but it was like in the back of their mind, they're like, oh, I should really consider that or think about that. And then 6 years later, every single choice that they made was because of something that you said that guided them in a different direction. That's amazing impact, but it's not as direct as like, oh, I'm going to go start volunteering tomorrow. But it was, I'm going to create this organization that is going to be able to give back to nonprofits moving forward.
Exactly.
And you created a culture inside of that person. It's not super immediate, but it's there.
Yeah.
And I think that those are some of the biggest points that people that are working in the nonprofit, people that support nonprofits, that's the whole purpose of these impacts. And you can't necessarily measure it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that more companies that, as they're trying to support the nonprofits out there, see that as that's the real value. It's not always about the data that you can see, but there's the impact that you make on one person that's going to change the world.
Yeah.
And you don't know how fast or how quickly that's going to happen, but that's what we're really shooting for as a nonprofit. So I'm glad that you brought that up, and I'm glad that she actually got into FSU. That's amazing.
It was so heartwarming. It's so hard. And for her to share it with me is what made it that much more value. She didn't have to.
No,
and again, you don't expect it, because that's not why you do what you do, right?
Correct.
In your space and in your position, but I hold true to form that you're right where you're supposed to be at all times, right? As long as you're maximizing that opportunity, you're right where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to do. And you just have to believe that you're doing the right thing, for the right reasons. Again, you can't measure that impact per se in any kind of quantifiable terms.
Exactly.
But it's the greater good. I think that's the most human element about it, right? We say at Boys and Girls Club, those who can volunteer, those who can do more, volunteer more. You know what I mean? So, again, it's the most basic human element I think we all can kind of put towards the world.
Yeah, all of those little pieces that were helping those kids move to the next stage of their life,
Mhm.
giving them the opportunities to oppor- uh, to music, to
Mm.
art, to golf that they never would have actually got to experience normally.
Yeah.
And then all of the different connections that they're going to have as resources moving forward because of those opportunities. It's so valuable.
Yeah.
It's so, so valuable. So I love what you guys are doing. I think this is a fantastic program that you have got going on. And I hope more people can actually see it and go and visit
Yeah.
one of the clubs. So how do people actually contact you at the clubs?
So you can always visit our website, bgcbc.org. Me personally, you can always shoot me an email, cwarrick@bgcbc.org.
You want to
And
spell work just for
I
everybody?
was just gonna say, yeah. So it's C like my first name, Warrick. And so I deal primarily with volunteer opportunities, fundraising strategies, partnerships, sponsorships, the nine. And so there's really, again, those 5 T's. We're always looking for support in one of those ways that we're trying to maximize. With 16 clubs in Broward, I say it all the time to people. You probably pass one every day and
Yeah.
just don't realize it's there, So if you're ever looking for more information, you can feel free to visit the website, give me an email. I'd love to set up tours with anyone who would be interested, to just, again, bring people in to experience that experience, right? We have corporate events throughout the year, obviously, as well, for fundraising. So we always encourage people to attend. And then we'll also do like smaller, intimate events at our clubs that are more catered to our communities. And that's the big thing too, right? We only offer our membership at $15 per child for the year, right?
For the year.
For the year. So we are kind of, if you know, the best kept secret in Broward when it comes to a form of childcare and after school or out of school time, as we like to call it. So we try to do a lot. We try to make sure we are very in tune with our communities. We want everyone's involvement, not just the big corporations or the big high name individual. We want it from the mom and pop shop around the corner. We want it from, anyone who's within the building, who's a block away, 3 blocks away, a mile away, because we, again, with such a big demographic, we touch just about everything. You know what I mean? There's an industry for all of us, within our clubs. We have parents that come from all walks of life, and again, with 60 years, we're now seeing, you know, kids of former club members coming through our door, even grandkids, coming through our doors. So we have generations now coming through our doors. So it's not just this one kid anymore. We've been taking care of their whole family for a while. And that family are, some of them are business owners. Some of them work at your local Walmart. Some of them, have their own entrepreneurship gig. And, it's important for us to, kind of like I said earlier, know how to rely upon one another. We can't keep carrying on this facade in the world that it's all about individualism and capitalism, when we really do need to lean on each other in order for us all to be, successful. So, the biggest thing we're really harping on now, with our programming is workforce readiness, especially, right? We want to make sure we're equipping our kids, to be productive and caring citizens in the world who are ready, for career advancement, college readiness. So, in that, we're also inviting all of our college entities to come in and get better acquainted with us. Anyone who has job opportunities, come through our clubs and start showing us your industry, showing our kids your industry and what it means to, be a licensed plumber, an electrician, not just your traditional schooling, your vocational and, your, industry jobs and such, because they're all needed, And again, we service communities where some things and some ideas are still a bit taboo. Our young men still think all you can be is an athlete, or you can just be a high-end musician. But hey, you need coaches, and you need, business professionals too on that sports end. You need video producers and, music producers. There's a lot more than just that surface level thing. So anyone who thinks they have something of value that they contribute and can give back, and give back is something I've even tried to start getting away from. I like to start saying paying it forward, right?
And honestly, that is a very beautiful way of putting it, because honestly, what is the future going to look like without investing in our kids?
Right.
And so paying it forward is perfect analogy for that. So
So you pay back, in retrospect. Pay forward is looking up. I mean,
no, that's true.
Forward thinking, forward leading. We're taking on new ventures with, young professional groups now, even where we are trying to, encourage the new generation of leadership in, not just our staff, but, our board. Members of our board and members of our support systems and our committees and such, who kind of drive a lot of our, organizational structure. So we're looking for all of that. It's never not needed. So, we look forward to all the new avenues of collaboration and advancement, and anyone who feels like they're in a space, and we also want to meet people where they're at too. That's another part. I understand that some people, when trying to kind of establish their philanthropic footprint, they don't know where to start. Again, it's taboo sometimes. You just want me to give you some money and just be on my way? No, that's not what I want.
Right.
I really kind of want to give you a portfolio for 3 things on how to be involved, right? Advocacy and awareness, engagement, and then maybe some revenue production, right? But I want all 3 of it, not just the revenue, because we'll get there eventually, right? But what's the revenue if you're not advocating and you're not being engaged?
That's
right.
True.
It's one-dimensional that way, and we want that 3-dimensional model. So I encourage all who are listening, watching, to give us a shout, give us a look, come check us out. You know what I mean, and see how you can get involved.
Perfect. So as we wrap up, I have one question I always ask everybody on the show: what is the legacy you personally want to leave for future generations?
That's a big question.
It is a big question.
I need a little thought on that one. But the legacy I would want to leave is I guess I would just say that you should always do because it needs doing. And that's something that I get from my father. And I'll get into kind of my hip hop terms a little bit, right? There's a line from Drake in a song he put out not too long ago, where he says, I don't do it for the trophies, I do it just because I'm supposed to, right? Don't look for recognition in doing things. Do things because they need to be done. And that's where you'll find the most reward, the most value in the things you're doing. And that's beyond just, nonprofit work. I think that's just life work, right? I'm right now, proud father of 2 kids, married, and I do things not just because I have kids or because I have a wife and because I need to provide for them. I do them because they're necessary to do. And I don't need recognition for it, reward for it. I don't need anyone to tell me and give me a pat on the back, say good job for doing that. It needs doing, so it'll get done. And I carry that same outlook in my work. I carry that same outlook in my friendships. I don't hang out with my buddies just because they need to see me or they're going through. I do it because it needs to get done. That's how I value our friendships. I take my wife out on date nights, not because she'll be mad if I don't. It needs to be done, have a nice fluid relationship. But and it'd be the same for the youth that I've coached and I've mentored, and that I kind of sit in my position to advocate for. do the things that are necessary for you to do in life. You know what I mean? Do the things that help you get out of bed and make you feel good about yourself, and not what the world says you're supposed to feel good about.
No, you have to follow your heart,
Yeah.
and you have to take action.
Yeah.
And that's what I heard from that. So that's, because there is a reason for it and it needs to get done.
Yeah.
So, Cameron, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Chris, thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it.
Awesome stuff.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Visualize. We hope that the inspiration and practical insights can help you foster stronger connections and meaningful change. Don't forget to subscribe, share the episode, and leave us a review. To learn more about Visuals by Momo and how we support collaboration and storytelling, visit visualsbymomo.com. A huge thank you to everyone out there listening. Until next time, remember, collaboration fuels change, and your connections can inspire the world.